Inventory levels right now are piling up. Supply has greatly exceeded demand, and when you pair that with sky-high MSRPs, recent price hikes, and interest rates being what they are, plus the fact that banks are denying 1 in 5 auto loans, it spells trouble for the car market overall. We really do look like a sinking ship, and plenty of dealerships are just banking on a government bailout. The writing is on the wall. Prices are out of control, rates are still lousy, and people simply aren't buying as inventory surges. Production and assembly line workers are being laid off, and we're on track for an imminent crash. Not too long ago, a domestic half-ton truck would have been $50,000 to $60,000, but it's now $85,000? No thank you. Remember about a year ago, some dealerships demanded $20,000 to $30,000 over MSRP for the Hummer EV? It's almost amusing now because you can go to any dealership and find a huge row of them collecting dust. Naturally, they're pushing incentivized rates and big discounts. Meanwhile, the number of loans 30 days past due is the highest since the 2008 to 2009 recession. Let that sink in for a second. You can't step into a local Ford dealership without spotting a lineup of unsold Broncos, both big body versions and Bronco Sports. They've been sitting for about 180 to 200 days across the nation, with the Sport sitting closer to 220 to 225 days on average. Honestly, it's no surprise, as many are priced from $65,000 to $72,000. The Bronco Raptor is near $100,000 before discounts. Even though the Sport starts closer to $35,000, it's hard to get pumped about 1.9% APR and $1,000 bonus cash when you are spending that kind of money for a compact SUV. The vehicles actually moving these days are priced $30,000 to $40,000. The national average for a new vehicle is $48,400, so a Maverick Lariat at $38,000 starts to seem almost reasonable, especially when you consider that monthly payment. I stopped by a Ford dealership about a week ago, saw 6 or 7 Mavericks on the lot, and now they're down to 1, so they're definitely selling. Let's not forget Americans are overextended with mortgages, rent, insurance, groceries. Prices have soared in every category. But one thing we rarely address is credit card debt, which averages just above $7,200 nationwide. Ironically, $7,200 is also the national average for negative equity on vehicles. That's how far underwater people are on their loans. Americans are bleeding out. MSRPs have jumped 42% since 2019, which is tough to swallow on its own. But when you add insurance premiums, which have doubled in just the last 2 to 2.5 years in some states, with 60% year-over-year increases in others, that's just freaking brutal. It's extremely concerning to see piles of unsold F-150 pickups sitting on dealer lots, covering every trim. Many come with decent discounts, but it's not enough. These aren't selling, which is a huge red flag for Ford. This truck is typically America's best seller, but even these aren't moving. And let's not forget about heavy-duty diesel pickups. You'll see these F-350 trucks with the 6.7-liter high-output Power Stroke listing at $101,000. Another Platinum is $97,000, and it just keeps going. That's why they're sitting on dealer lots. Meanwhile, the Ranger has climbed to around $50,000. Remember when not too long ago $50,000 could buy something much bigger? The sea of unsold inventory is unending. We have over 3 million brand new vehicles nationwide, and that's worrisome because the 2025 models are rolling in, while 2023 and 2024 units collect dust. The real kicker isn't the 3 million figure, but the fact that we've increased our stock by over 120% since 2023. That's enormous. With so many cars piling up, dealers are refusing more allocations. If they're not ordering new vehicles, factories don't build them, so production and assembly line workers get laid off. This issue is global. Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Volkswagen, they're all cutting jobs. VW alone plans to trim 35,000 employees by 2030. Nissan is slashing 9,000. BMW and Mercedes are reporting record losses, and it'll likely worsen in 2025. As for EVs, sales have frozen. Rivian leads the pack with market share losses in 2024, dropping 55%. Lucid saw a 48% drop. The EV future doesn't look bright in the US market. especially if Ford can't move its Mustang Mach-E or F-150 Lightning with 0% APR and government tax credits on top of that. They even cut those prices by over $20,000, yet inventory keeps building. And with the Trump administration taking office, EV incentives will probably diminish further. The redesigned Ford Explorer looks great, but since when do they cost $60,000? Repossession rates in the US rose 23% this past year, so it's no shock banks are clamping down. 1 out of 5 auto loan applications this past quarter was denied. Banks just aren't handing out loans like they used to because people can't make the payments. Among all current car loans, the average monthly for a new purchase is $760 plus and $525 plus for used. Folks buying these $90,000 to $100,000 trucks are in particularly risky territory. Let me illustrate. On a $92,000 truck over 72 months with a 7% interest rate, our national average, and a 7% sales tax plus fees, you're shelling out $1,686 a month in payments, which comes out to $120,000 total if you pay the entire term. That's $20,000 in interest alone. That is just wild. As a Toyota enthusiast and someone who spent most of my retail automotive career at a Toyota and Lexus dealership, I was stoked for the new Land Cruiser. But a 4-cylinder engine and a near $60,000 price tag is infuriating. Even the cheapest 1958 trim comes in around $61,000, so the cost only climbs with the upper trim levels. I've seen some being advertised at $73,000. I talked to a rep at my local Toyota dealer who says they are moving some Tacomas now. That's because they're slashing MSRPs and offering decent finance rates. $6,000 to $8,000 off is common. Honestly, with an average sticker that once hit $53,000 for a Mexican-built midsize truck, that's a tough pill to swallow. But at $45,000, a few more people would bite. It's also intriguing watching Toyota issuing massive recalls after shrinking displacements, replacing that 5.7-liter V8 in the Tundra with a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, or throwing a 2.4-liter Turbo 4 in the Tacoma. The brand is chasing green credits, slapping on iForce Max badges for minimal MPG gains, yet a big jump in sticker price. People never asked for this, and it only helps Toyota rake in government carbon credits. The new Tundra and Tacoma are languishing on lots for 220 to 250 days and 150 to 180 days respectively, whereas they previously sold within weeks. You'll even see bizarre colors like Terra with TRD Pro trim priced at $67,000. That's a prime example of dropping quality and soaring MSRPs. Outsourcing to Mexico saves Toyota 80% on labor, yet they raise the prices by 25% over the older, more reliable V6 engines. Across all brands, we see declining quality paired with climbing costs. It's no wonder banks won't let dealers tack on excessive markups. Lenders refuse to finance over a vehicle's realistic value unless the buyer puts down a huge sum. This kills the golden era of markups, even on hot trims. In fact, we're witnessing outright discounts on models once marked up a year ago, including TRD Pros, the new Trail Hunter, heavily optioned diesel pickups, the Ram TRX, and the F-150 Raptors. It's reassuring for buyers, but also signals how inflated MSRPs were to begin with. Vehicles that are selling now hover between $30,000 to $40,000, like the Ford Maverick and Toyota RAV4, partially thanks to better MPG and more attainable monthly payments. Full-size SUVs, though, are $70,000 to $100,000 plus, which has essentially become its own type of birth control. This car market crash is good for anyone eyeing a new vehicle, but painful for anyone trading one in. Wholesale values fell 18% last quarter. That means a trade worth $40,000 last year might now be only $31,000. It makes sense. If brand new trucks are barely moving with $10,000 or more in discounts, used equivalents lose even more ground. Even the Bronco Raptor, which had hype behind it, is seeing $18,000 to $20,000 off. That proves Ford overpriced it from the jump. I like the Chevy Colorado ZR2 Bison, but $61,000 for a 4-cylinder truck seems nuts. Many used vehicles aren't selling either, and with used loan rates sitting around 11%, that wipes out the savings versus buying new at 7% APR. Financed to full term, the used one can end up costing more overall. Paying cash is a different story, but most people finance. Michigan's unemployment rate is climbing fastest, largely due to Motor City layoffs, though maybe fewer than anticipated. If you have $100,000 lying around, you can snag a new 2025 GMC Yukon XL Denali at $96,000. But with today's rates, plan on $125,000 or more over the life of the loan. And weirdly, GM is holding up better than most, partly because they're used to big rebates, discount financing, and quick price cuts. You'll often see $6,000 off plus 0% financing, or maybe even $10,000 off if you negotiate. Jeep, Dodge, Ram, and Chrysler are in a tighter spot. Ram has over 25,000 brand new trucks rotting on lots, with an average stay of over 460 days. That's nearing a year and a half. Jeep Wranglers typically sit around 280 to 300 days, so we're seeing huge discounts, $16,000 to $22,000 off of Rubicon 4xe models. Flooring costs mount each month, so moving metal is the only way to stay in business. If a GMC or Chevy franchise can't push anything, they'll be the first to shut down. You have to wonder if some of these dealers are just banking on a bailout. With unmanageable prices, crummy rates, and minimal sales, plus layoffs at the manufacturing level, you can tell we're barreling toward a big crash. You still see places clinging to predatory markups, hoping for assistance that probably won't come. I, for one, hope it doesn't. When repossessions surge, it's usually fun cars like sports cars that go first, Mustangs, Camaros, Chargers, as owners can't justify them anymore. Luxury sports sedans like $63,000 Cadillac CT5 Sport or $100,000 BMW M4s also fall into that category. Nissan and Stellantis seem to be the weakest links. Nissan might get bought out by Honda. Over half their US dealerships are losing money monthly, and they plan to eliminate 9,000 positions worldwide. Stellantis is down 50% in stock value over the past year, spiraling further. They need to shed some of their 14 sub-brands soon. So what exactly does a 2025 car market crash look like for typical buyers? A lot of people dream of snagging a $50,000 truck for $20,000, but that's unrealistic. A more likely scenario is dealers selling vehicles at 10 to 15% below invoice before they declare bankruptcy. For instance, if the invoice on a $50,000 truck is $44,000, they might let it go at $38,000 to $40,000. Yes, they lose money, but at least they're unloading inventory while hoping to cultivate long-term customer loyalty. If they don't do that, they'll probably default. Once that happens, the franchise, Chevy, Ford, Toyota, etc., reclaims the vehicles and redistributes them elsewhere. Will we see those massive drops we've all hoped for, or just a mild version of it? Only time will tell. This is Kevin Liu for Todo Machina. Thanks for watching.